series that I run on my blog. I've been blogging since 2006. There's
Okay.
on employee communications, personal branding, CSR. So it's really the intersection of all this, which I believe is the future of how the workplace and
Mm.
workplaces get shaped. What I would like you to do, if you could kindly introduce yourself to the audience before we kick off.
Sure. Sure. Okay. And honestly, just 1 second. I actually forgot to close the door. So yeah, let's
No
just
worries.
yeah, just one moment there.
Sure,
That
sure.
door's gonna be pretty noisy. Okay, so that should be better. So I'm gonna give you a lot of editing to do here, my friend. Once we get started, we're good. You ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. My name is Alexander Michael Gittens. Professionally, I'm a business strategist, an author, and a speaker. I live downtown Toronto, Canada, a beautiful city, and it is absolutely my pleasure to be here with you today sharing some tips and lessons that I've learned on personal branding.
Fantastic. I looked at your LinkedIn profile, and you've been doing immense amount of work, not just on the business side. You've been fundraising. You also on the way to getting a doctorate in
Yeah.
business strategy. So I think that's really fantastic to have you on the
Thank
show.
you.
And I think there's also great to understand your perspectives on personal branding. So
Mm.
let me begin by asking you the first question. What's your definition of personal branding?
Absolutely. Well, and assume my definition is going to be pretty close to the dictionary definition. How I apply it with something different, but we'll get into that. But for a definition, I think branding is any kind of promotion that you do. You're looking to drive a specific action, whether that's
Right.
convert someone into a buyer, whether that is gain awareness, whether that is
Right.
to get your message out for perhaps altruistic reasons. So
Mhm.
that's what the branding would be. Now, personal, of course, relates to you. So it'd sort of be that self promotion, getting your own voice out there and looking to drive the outcomes that you want with your voice.
Right. Right. Okay. Great. And obviously, knowing that you have done so much and you have built a personal brand for yourself along the journey. So, if I were to ask you, what are those signs which tell you that you are becoming a personal brand or you are one?
Absolutely. So there's the inward signs and then there's the outward signs, right? So the inward signs, I guess, have been there my entire life, where I felt like I had something I wanted to say, but I had no clue what it was or how. But I always felt like I was in the wrong place or I was a little bit different than the people around me. I come from an immigrant family. So I wanted a way to express myself that wasn't just sports and music. And I think it became, as I got older, very, very important for me to do things in my way and to find myself. Now,
Okay.
a lot of failure happened to get there, but I think once I did find myself, it became
Mhm.
important for me to share those lessons and those experiences with other people. So I think
Right.
that's where the outward signs started to come is when I
Got it.
started to only put out content that was aligned with my own experiences and my own values.
Got it. Okay. Fantastic. And so, if I would ask you, what does it take to go about building a personal brand? So, what are some of those insights that you can share?
Yeah, yeah. So with my clients, I always say branding equals consistency.
Mhm.
So rather than what you want the world to see, your branding
Mhm.
is what you consistently do. And that consistency starts with habits, even in the things that people don't see, right? So
Right.
your diet, your nutrition, the way you handle your relationships, the way you handle perhaps things that happened in the past that aren't great to you, being
Mhm.
consistent and working on those things with positivity and with energy and intentionality, that is part of your brand. But at the end of the day, if you consistently put out high quality content with a specific focus, you'll have a strong brand. If you put out quality that is sometimes high, sometimes low, and then you'll have a rather weak brand or an inconsistent brand.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
And if you were to kind of think about the attributes of a personal brand and how do people perceive you, and in terms
Yeah.
of what are those keywords that come to people's mind when they think of you as a personal brand?
Well, it's not going to be handsome, all right. That I can't control, but I hope that I am intelligent. I hope that I am value led. I hope that I'm true. Abraham Lincoln has this great quote where he talks about he's not trying to win; he wants to be true. So I hope that
Right.
it's the way that I present myself is a reflection of the things that mean a lot to me, and I hope that at the end of the day, everything I put out is not about someone feeling good or getting little bits of information, providing actual tools so that people with their own time and their own energy can create a unique expression of excellence for themselves, the people they love, and the world around them. So, more than inspiration or motivation, it's about providing solid tools, actionable tools that can get you to the best version of who you are.
Fantastic. And so, if I were to ask you, in your experience, in your journey, who are some of those personal brands you see
Yeah.
out there?
Yeah.
So what are some of those characteristics that you admire about them? Maybe
Sure.
if you could name a couple of them.
Yeah, and it's so weird because I was talking about this with a client the other day, and we were saying that branding is consistency,
Right.
whether it's consistently good or bad. We have
Right.
world leaders, we won't mention any names, but some world leaders that we know are very consistent in the way that they do things, and they have a very strong brand, but it may not be a brand that we want to associate ourselves with. So whether it is a celebrity or an athlete or a politician or a thought leader, my
Right.
biggest thing is consistency. Is
Mm.
does this person go deep into the things that they care about? Is everything well researched? Is it well presented? Is it beautiful? Is it light? Is it harmonious? Does it have light and levity? Those are things
Right.
that are important to me. So people like Barack Obama would mean a lot to me, even though
Hmm.
I'm probably the least political person. I'm not really interested in politics at all. But I
Right.
like the fact that he's built his career on
Hmm.
the same values that when he was a community organizer and helping
Right.
people in some bad neighborhoods there, and when he was the president of the United States, and even now with his production company and his film company, telling great
Okay.
stories. So for me, unfortunately, there's no one person I can look at and say I want to be like them. But I think
Right.
that's great because I see traits in many different people where they have that consistency, even if it's not the way I operate. I
Right.
aspire to be that deep and that true in everything that I do.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean that's a great thought. I mean about
Sure.
consistency and the fact that you want to learn from different traits of other people and bring that together. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Uh,
thanks.
so, in your experience and your journey, so can you articulate a few steps that you?
Sure.
I know it may not be consciously or unconsciously, but you could
Sure.
think of some steps that you use to kind of think of building your personal brand or how you want to be more consistent.
Absolutely. This is something, Anisu, that is so important to me. It's beyond conscious. It's intentional. It's moment by
Right.
moment. So literally, a lot of the things I did in life, I was trying to get to a certain place. So
Right.
if I get money, then people will respect me. If I
Right.
get education, then people will listen to what I have to say, and then I'll matter, right? So it was sort
Right.
of doing one thing to get to another thing. The
Right.
biggest difference that I made where things started
Mhm.
to really work for me is I gave
Mhm.
up. I gave up. I had so much failure. I gave up on trying to make people look at me a certain way or trying to get a certain reaction. And I just started
Mhm.
to focus on my individual actions. So,
Right.
literally, the step that I take is I ask
Mhm.
myself,
Mhm.
is this moment that I'm in
Mhm.
representative of my entire values in legacy? So I
Right.
literally say, I'm talking to my friend Anasu from Bangalore there in India on his incredible blog. This unit, this scene of my life, this moment,
Mhm.
am I okay with it representing everything I'll ever be? So
Right.
now I can't just say what I think you want to hear, or I can't just give, because my whole life is being displayed in this moment. And
Got
you
it.
get a habit, you get this consistency for having a unique voice because you're always asking yourself, you're always
Right.
calibrating your values with your actions, and you're saying,
Right.
you know what, is this all me? So we've got a
Yeah.
quote on our team where it's like, it's above doing our best, it's
Right.
about giving our all. So we put our
Right.
talent, our passions, our values, all of the things that brought us to this moment, all the things we want to be, we bring those
Right.
into every moment. So anyone can do that. Anyone
Right.
can say before they post, before they
Mhm.
write, am I
Mhm.
okay with this post, this
Right.
article, this
Right.
this image representing everything I am? And then when you
Right.
have that, you're going to get this beautiful consistency and excellence as well. You're going to have,
Right.
and it'll never be perfect. You got to accept that.
Yeah.
I'm on step
Yeah.
7 out of 100. Like it's never going to be
Right.
perfect, but that
Right.
consistency in the process is more important than the destination or the goal because the
Got it.
process is everything and the goal is
Right.
one of the results. So yeah, it's a very specific way that we operate and I operate as a team, and that's in
Right.
every area of my life.
Great. I mean, fantastic insights. And
Yes.
You mentioned something about the fact that you're doing something to get to a certain goal. So you wanted to do your education so that you had a voice, people respected you. Now, if along the way, what are some of the challenges that you faced, and what
Oh
did you
my
do to try to
goodness.
overcome them?
Challenges. Okay, so let me be clear. I didn't have challenges. I had failure. I
Okay,
had legal failure, financial failure, business failure. Everything that I tried to do, it worked for a little while, but I ended up maybe 10 steps forward, 50
right.
steps backwards. And so,
Okay,
honestly, don't go through what I did. But at the same time, when you're in that place where you know that I've got all this money I owe, I've got all these scary situations I'm in, it's going to take
right.
me years to get out of it. It's a place
Yeah,
where you have to look at yourself and say, what kind of man, what kind of person do I want to be? And
right.
failure tends to be a better teacher than success. And as I
Mhm.
said, because the failure was my fault, no one did it to me, there was nowhere to look but in the mirror, right? So
Right.
the challenges were not the getting back up. Life goes on. You got to get back up. I'm an ambitious
Yeah,
person. You're an ambitious person. We push forward. That's what we do. But the
right.
challenge was in applying that greatness equation, best
Mhm.
possible me
Mhm.
multiplied by biggest positive impact, applying that
Mhm.
to every moment of my life. Because maybe
Right.
it's easy to do with clients, but harder to do in relationships. Maybe it's easy to do in my health and nutrition, but hard to do when I'm dealing with my parents. And so the
Right.
challenge to me, the
Mhm.
failure and the challenge to me is, am I going to be true to my
Mhm.
values come what may? And there is
Right.
big moment or small moment. You're always calibrating your actions with your values, but you then get in the habit of greatness and you start sounding like someone who knows what they're talking about because you're
Right.
living your own path unapologetically and
Right.
passionately. So yeah, it's a wonderful question, but failure and an acuity in the way that I operate have been the
Right.
key to any good thing that's happened to me.
Fantastic. Very, very interesting insight.
Sure.
And if I were to kind of ask you, along the way, what are some of the, how did you gain along the
Sorry.
way, or you lose out on? What are some of the, points that you lost along the way, and what are some of the things that you gained along the way of your journey of building
Okay.
personal brand?
Okay. Yeah, I've got to apologize because we lost the sound there for a moment. But I think the question is, what are some of the things that I lost and what are some of the things that I gained? Yes. Okay, so this is easy because I lost a lot, right? I lost money, I lost friendships, I lost my
Mhm.
respect, I had to rebuild my reputation, but what I gained, oh my
Mhm.
goodness. Well, let's do a few more losses because some of the losses were gained. I gained my illusion of what success would look like for me. I lost that illusion. I lost the belief that something external had to change for me to become the most of who I am. Even when
Mhm.
things don't go my way, it's the way in which I react to the challenges of life and where my greatness is found. So the universe or the world or God is giving me opportunities and challenges so I can hone and refine my greatness and so that I can respond and act in alignment with my values. So I lost my illusions, I lost money, but what did I gain? I gained clarity. I gained
Right.
resiliency and a little bit of wisdom too. I'm a young man, but I gained some wisdom as well and a way to operate and a purpose and a plan for my life. And two things that I gained that I didn't even think that I needed because I'm a pretty happy person. I gained peace, peace
Right.
in my life, a calmness, a beautiful peace, and then joy. Like I said, happiness came pretty easily. I'm a pretty buoyant person, but that joy, that excitement of working on something hard with people that I respect towards a goal that we may never reach, but it's literally worth the very gift of life and the totality of our time and energy. So I lost a lot, but everything I lost wasn't worth a whole lot. And what I gained is priceless and eternal. That's been wonderful.
I like your positivity. I like the fact that you bounce back from so many of
It was
those issues.
close.
And
It was
yeah,
close. I made it, but
so
whoa. Yeah.
yeah, and you've been a TEDx speaker. You've been inspiring audiences around the world. Tell me, what's your advice for someone who's starting out from scratch, someone who's probably a graduate from college. They just
Sure.
getting
Yeah.
into their first job. What is the first step he or she should do to build a personal brand?
Oh, it's a great question. And I'm really blessed. I have a great relationship with all three, four of the universities here in Toronto. And I have a chance to speak. I spoke at the Young Entrepreneurship Conference right before we went on lockdown here. So I have a chance to work very closely with students in this area. And honestly, they always ask a variation of the same question. It's sort
Mhm.
of like, what was that one thing you did? Or what was
Right.
that one step I should take? And you and
Yes.
I, we have a little bit more kilometers on us here. We realize that success is not one thing 1,000% better. It tends to be a
Right.
thousand things 1% better. But the one thing I would say to someone is it is impossible to lead. It is
Mm.
impossible to be compelling. It is possible
Mm.
to go your own way if you are following someone else's path and someone else's methodology. When
Right.
you watch people that you're inspired by, it's the same thing as when you dream. The
Mm.
only benefit to a dream is to
Mhm.
give you that impetus for action, to take that
Right.
next positive step. But how can you lead and have your own voice if you're just repeating someone else's words and their energy? So it may
Right.
take a little bit longer. And I've
Mhm.
learned that taking shortcuts is the longest way. So if you
Right.
actually think, what is important to me? What do I care about? What is my voice? I would say
Right.
that's the most important thing. And number two, as in not following, how do you lead by following? You got to lead.
Right.
Number two is what we talked about before. Make sure that everything you put out, everything that has your name on it, things that
Mhm.
people don't see, your habits, make sure they're lined up with the things that you care about the most.
Got it.
There's a verse in the Bible that I
Mhm.
love. It says, "What good would it do if we got everything we ever wanted, but we lost the real me? Right? What good
Right.
would that do? I got everything I wanted." So make sure you stay true to who you really are, and that's not in
Mhm.
some motivational speaker talk. It's
Right.
literally in everything you do. If it's not something that you've worked on, if it's not something that you care about, if it's not something your heart beats for, if it's not something you've put the time and rigor in, don't do
Right.
it. You know, be yourself unapologetically and at the highest altitude possible.
Great. Yeah, I mean, it's very inspirational to hear that.
Yeah.
While you, if I were to ask you to reflect on your journey, is there one aspect that you would like to revisit and change and do differently about your personal brand?
About my personal brand, no, because every time that I had that epiphany, I just deleted everything and started over. So, so the answer to your question, is there anything I would change? Yeah, I changed everything a couple of times, right? And I think that's part of the importance too, is not being afraid of starting over. I had to start over a few times. I felt myself doing things that weren't really who I was. But
Right.
the things that I would change aren't in my personal brand. The things I will change is in my personal life, because
Hmm.
in the process of becoming the best possible me, there were
Hmm.
relationships I had and family situations and business situations where
Right.
I was the cause of things that I'm not proud of at all. And even when they weren't 100% my fault, I let
Mhm.
stuff go. I looked the other way. I dealt with people in a way that I'm not proud of now. And to the
Mhm.
best of my ability, I've made restitution for that. And maybe
Mhm.
to someone else, it wouldn't seem like a big deal. Like, you know, there's
Right.
nothing all that criminal that I've done to anyone else. But it's
Mhm.
not even about that. I just hate that as I was becoming me, some of those
Mhm.
earlier relationships and all of that, I was confused. I was lost. I didn't know who I was. So for myself, I can handle starting over. I can handle defeat. But I hate that there have been moments that I know for sure, and probably moments that I don't know, where my
Mhm.
actions more or my intentions did it costed somebody else. And
Got it.
so those are my biggest regrets. For myself, I can handle it. I'll pick myself up. But there have been people who met me along the way when I was a
Mhm.
lesser version of myself. And if I could go back, I would definitely do better in relationships and in the way I handled things. Yeah, for sure.
Got it. Okay. And what's your recipe, or what's your one mantra for
Yeah.
personal branding success? What would that one line be?
Yeah, well, let's do the one line and the one word, okay? So, what is my mantra for personal branding success in one word? All. ALL.
Okay.
All. I want it
Mhm.
all. I
Mhm.
expect to give my all. And in
Right.
everything I do, I want it to be a reflection of my very existence here on the planet and in legacy after I go.
Right.
So I want to
Okay.
give my all. Now, a little longer version that might be a little bit more helpful to someone who wants to learn is what we call
Sure.
the greatness equation. I've got it right here on my wristband, and our
Oh,
team, we wear it all the time. And that is becoming the best possible me and
mhm.
creating the biggest positive impact.
Sure.
So if that's an equation, then both sides need to equal 10 out of 10 or 100 out of 100. So if I'm
Mhm.
making a big impact, but it's not inside of my passions or talents or values, then I'm getting a 0 on the best possible me, even though I'm making an impact. So the whole
Right.
equation equals 0. So I want to make sure in everything that I do that I'm really giving my all. I'm really being myself. I'm working hard to develop my talents, my passions, and my values. But I'm not
Right.
just doing that for me. I do it for myself first, but it's for
Mhm.
myself, the people I love, and the world around me. So
Right.
literally at the end of my speeches, I have the crowd repeat it, and it's a great mantra. In every moment of my life, I
Mhm.
aspire to be the best possible me and to create the biggest positive impact. And that's the
Wow.
greatness equation. And it's the
Wow.
only path that I'm going to follow, my friend. There's no other path I'm interested in.
Great. Great. Lovely. I mean, that's. I mean, I can feel me myself resonating with that
Good.
that particular mantra. Fantastic.
Nice.
As a wrap up, the question which I had is, right now we're going through a pandemic.
Sure.
There have been many crises.
Sure.
So, as personal brands, what should they be doing differently, or what
Sure.
should they pause what they do? Should they revisit their strategy? So, what should
Mhm.
personal brands do in such situations?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question because the empathy or lack of empathy that we've all seen as a result of people being in life-threatening and horrible situations has been a little disappointing at times, but it's balanced and even overcome by the generosity of people and rallying together as communities always have in times of trouble. Now, what does
Right.
that mean to an individual? I think
Mhm.
hard times, they reveal character. I
Mhm.
think if someone goes towards profiteering or goes
Mhm.
towards leverage or they
Right.
try to become an overnight expert, it's exposing the character of wanting to profit from misery or wanting to use misery. But even in tough situations, if you follow the greatness equation and if your goal is to create the biggest positive impact, then you're going to always be asking yourself, man, we are in a horrible situation. The globe is affected like it hasn't been since our last pandemic or epidemic. What can
Right.
I do uniquely? And I think for
Yeah.
our team, that was doing a gala and raising money and working with my clients to feed healthcare workers in Miami and working with my client in Hawaii to give him
Yeah.
advice as he feeds the people there. So I think at the end of the day,
Mhm.
anything that feels like you are leveraging other people's pain,
Mhm.
that that's not a road we want to follow. But
Right.
even in the most challenging situations, the way in which we respond, the way in which we fix our attitude is reflective of our highest values, and that can lead to greatness too. But be
Sure.
careful because operating outside of your values, I'll tell you firsthand, it's a recipe for disaster. But even when things
Right.
are tough, if you
Yeah.
line up your actions with your values, you'll it
Mhm.
may take a little longer, but you'll like where you'll go.
Great, great.
Yeah.
This is brilliant, Alexander. I mean, really
Brilliant.
appreciate you. I really love this conversation. Fantastic insights. I'm sure viewers will love this, and really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this for me.
Honestly, the pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me and have a wonderful day. And Godspeed with your endeavors. You're spreading
Thank you.
positivity, and I'm happy to be a part of your journey as you make a difference with your time and your talent.
All right. Thank you so much.
My
What
pleasure.
I'll do is I will look forward to your transcript so that I can
Okay.
put it together and share it with you before it goes live.
Wonderful. Wonderful.